How are you? Hopefully you're good. My name is Sizwe Nkosi, a member of Strides Football Club, a member of Pelindaba Local Football Association. I'm delivering this message to you on behalf of Strides Football Club and in consideration of the electoral process currently underway within Pelindaba Local Football Association. So just for properness, this message is not on behalf of Pelindaba Local Football Association, it is on behalf of Strides. The purpose of it is to seek nomination and support in terms of the election for myself as a chairperson of Pelindaba Local Football Association. Seek that from the like-minded members who would like to see us progressing from the programs that we have already started. We'll also try and explain some of the grievances that are raised by other members that make them to seek different candidates for leadership. And some of those we know that they are your grievances as well, but we'll try to clear the rationale behind them. We'll unpack this rationale in a form of the progressive programs that we've started, which we would like to call Gear 2 programs. We'll explain why there has to be a radical change to effect these programs. We will also rehash the electoral process so that we don't miss anything and we do all things right to get to the kind of output that we're looking for. We will also re-emphasize the supremacy of the Constitution within PLFA and give you the rationale why Constitution is supreme and the need for us to protect it. Right. Starting with the seeking of nomination. So Strides Football Club would like to request like-minded members of PLFA who would like to see the kind of progress that we've already started embarking on, to nominate myself, Sizwe Nkosi, as a chairperson to continue to drive these programs. You know, there are members who are aggrieved by the fact that about 6 months ago, I announced my possible stepping down from PLFA. And the stepping down was necessitated by me being elected in other structures of the sporting fraternity and to give myself, you know, into those committees. I believe that it was the right thing to do, to step down. And I also believe it was the right thing to do, to announce me stepping down. But I'll also tell you what I expected to see. I expected to see one or more members raising their hands and saying they will take on the mantle. But they didn't. It was quiet for quite some time. And when we finally got to that point, we then realized that people from outside the organization have been recruited to come and take over the leadership. We've learned that with concern, and I was really concerned about it. Could be that my concerns are not valid or misinformed, but what I know is that if you take a person who has not been part of the organization, who has not been part of the progression of the organization, to bring this person into the organization at the helm of it, you are also saying that whatever the progression that we've been experiencing, we are going to reverse it for something else. I mean, we see these things everywhere. that really was a cause for concern for me and other members. So when we evaluate the risk of regression is very high. In fact, the likelihood of regression is high. And the regression will bring about an adverse impact in the stability and the running of the association. So if anyone who identifies a risk of such an impact and likelihood that affects overall organization has a responsibility to mitigate that risk. Now, the easiest form for us to mitigate this risk is for me to continue to lead the association. But for me to lead the association is not my decision, it's yours. You have to see the risk for what it is, and you have to make a decision on the kind of mitigation that you believe is correct. We are just telling you our recommendation on the mitigation, but at the end, you still make up your mind. Whether there is a risk, whether the likelihood is high, whether the impact is highly adverse, and whatever the mitigation of that risk is going to be, it's up to you. Ours is just to recommend. Now, let's talk a little bit about the other members who have decided to go the route of recruiting other people outside the organization to lead. What do we know about them? What do we know about what causes them to do this? We know that they are not happy with the increment of the registration fees. They are exorbitant, that's what they say. They are not happy that the current chairperson of the association, in fact, let me put it this way. They are not happy because they think that the chairperson of the association runs the entire show alone. And they believe he does so to, put favorable conditions for himself, or running the association alone favors him. They are not happy with him because he's too aloof. He doesn't mingle a lot at the grounds, sidelines, and other forms of informal engagements. They think that he or the executive committee are taking an opportunity to exercise too much power to appoint or co-opt members of the committee like treasurer, secretary. They believe that there should be extensive consultation before such could be co-opted. And they believe that such a consultation does not happen. There are other theories, but these are the ones that have been made vocal by some of the members who belong in the other faction. But we also know that some of these grievances are your grievances as well. Like, for instance, the increment of the registration fee. These are your grievances as well. You are surprised at the rate of increment that you are seeing, and you also think that it is abnormal. Well, let's get to it then, so that we can clear this matter. I will get to the program of what that we call the Gear 2 progression. But before I get to it, I want to also share with you that the executive committee was not a one-man show. There are people in the executive committee who did their best, to the capacity that they had. There are members who did not even try. In a space of 4 years, we were able to dismiss 3 members, well, in different times, because of lack of performance. We have the mechanism to do that. But with the rate of non-performance that we're seeing, we were only going to be left with 3 members in the executive committee. So we tried other interventions. But as you try these interventions, you cannot say, therefore, let us stop, let everything stop. We have to get our hands dirty whilst we intervene. Now, was that going to help? In good time, yes. But you must also understand that the executive committee is not a political structure, especially in an LFA. Maybe at the region it could be, maybe at the province it could be, maybe nationally it could be. And an LFA, an executive committee, is not a political structure. It is a working structure. If you don't have the skills for the role that you are appointed for or elected for, a problem exists immediately. And that problem will immediately have an impact on the members of the organization, just as much as to the executive committee as well. There is no chairperson who wants to go and always report to the members and say, this one and that one is not working, this one and that one is not working. No. Always try to intervene using proper mechanisms, but still keep the organization going. So others may have seen a one-man show, but the context through which they saw that was wrong. But it was never a one-man show, nonetheless. Aloofness of leadership. Aloofness basically means that you don't consult or even interact with members informally. When they have their own little gatherings at the sidelines and so forth and so on, you don't join them. And because you don't join them, you are removed from reality. And because you are removed from reality, you are going to go and implement programs that are not fit for purpose for this organization. But the truth, ladies and gentlemen, is that sometimes when you do such engagements with members, you allow them the space to raise things with you that they should actually raise through proper channels. It makes it difficult for you all the time to be careful when you engage, because one day you are going to be mentioned when there's a problem to say, but chairperson said X, Y, and Z. And that X, Y, and Z was said in an informal gathering. You don't want to do that. So, yes, leaders must engage with members, but not at the level of friendship, but as part of the program. There are programs that we have started, but not yet gotten off the ground with Vice Chair, Ms. Lifiedi, to engage these members. Those are the programs that are correct to engage members and not necessarily to be part of those people who meet at the field. And we're not saying people who meet at the field and on the sidelines are wrong. They're not wrong. It's good for them. But for a leader to do that with them, a leader has got to be extraordinarily careful. So you can never be too careful enough. For people like me, we avoid a situation where you would actually start encouraging members that if they are standing with you and discussing important matters of football with you, they are actually also driving you to make certain decisions. Because if you're not careful, you will discuss these things. As careful as you are, they will still make suggestions and recommendations to you. And then after the executive committee meeting, they will still ask you, that thing that we suggested to you 2 weeks ago, did you guys discuss it at the executive committee meeting? Now that creates a problem. This is not, that's why I say executive committee at an LFA level is not a political structure. It does not deal with constituencies. Everything has got to be above board in terms of engagements. We have to perfect that, of course. Our engagement with the members is not at the level where it should be. We have got to get it right, but not the way that some members want it to happen. All right. Some people, the power to co-opt, the Constitution gives the executive committee the power to co-opt. It does not say for this position and that position there must be extensive engagements. But I can tell you now that for any position whatsoever within the association, we consult extensively through emails, through WhatsApp groups, through our website, through Facebook or social media. We consult extensively. So it is members who snub us, but we ultimately then make decisions. Again, this thing of consulting, it must be, you see, the thing about executive committee is that whatever you do, you must, to members, you must do it across the board the same. If you go to members who are at Salmon side and start talking to them about these things, but you don't go to members who are in OSTAT, or vice versa, you are now dividing this organization. This is something that we have to avoid at all costs. I'm hoping that that message is coming across okay. Now, to quickly talk to gear number 2, or moving to gear number 2, the progression. I just want to present to you, you know, some of the changes. So gear number 2 has got gear number 2 has got 3 elements: the current league structure, the fee, registration fee structure, and the club funding structure. So with the current league structure, we have decided that we are going to create 2 streams per league at the junior level. These 2 streams, instead of being horizontal, they will be vertical. The upper stream will always be a high performance stream. The lower stream will be an entry level stream. Now, in doing so, there's 2 things that, you know, triggered this decision. One is the stability of the leagues needs to be protected. Now, for clubs that are invested in this association, they need to be protected by making sure that as we change season and new clubs coming, some clubs leaving, they are not affected. So by becoming members of the upper stream, they also own a status of some sort. So owning this status means that I'm going to do the best that I can to keep it. Secondly, the players, by getting them to play against each other at the high performance level and without contaminating competition with players on a low performance level, you are creating an opportunity for increased quality. Now, that opportunity, ladies and gentlemen, will help us as an association to know that as we go and compete outside, whoever is going to represent us there is at the level where we can say is high enough to compete. Currently, if you take the winning club from any league and say, go and compete outside, you're not sure, because their level of standard could have been dropped by the fact that they also participate in the same league as the entry-level players, entry-level coaches. So this should help us qualitatively, but also in terms of stabilizing the leagues. We can't do that for under 17 and Super League yet because of the numbers. But we are hoping that we're going to be doing a lot of work in 2022 to get the numbers for Super League and under 17 for us to be able to stream them up as well. And we're hoping that we'll also be able to increase the number of participants, maybe not increase, but to get the required number of participants for under 19. We've been struggling with under 19 for a long time. With that said, this happens at a time when we have been having, what do you call the registration fee challenges. So as we address the registration fee challenges, we address them whilst we are also implementing the league structure, which makes the change quite radical. We'll explain that. The current fees have been the same from the time we were supported by Mr. Foundation as a region to now. We have not changed them. And yet, there's no factoring of operational matters in these prices or these fees. Operational matters like player cards are not factored in. Prize monies are not factored in. Okay, prize materials, we currently get support from SuperSport, but we don't have an agreement yet. SuperSport has a right to at any time announce that they are no longer supporting us. So until we have an agreement with SuperSport, we cannot say that we are safe. So that's why we in our new fees we have the good, the better, and the worst case scenario. The best, the better, and the worst case scenario. All right, so the fees used to be 360 under 11, 400 under 13, 1,120 under 17, and Super League 3,000 under 20. Using the worst case scenario structure, this is a structure that says we have nothing, we have no one. It's just us that support us. If we were to factor everything, including prize money as well as material pricing, we would be still able to run ourselves as an association with no deficit whatsoever. Careful calculation went in to determine these prices. So we've put in the match officiating costs in full, the registration costs in full, the material prices, meaning the soccer kit, the medals, the trophies, and things like that. We've factored them in here. We've factored the prize money in full on these fees. And we've also factored the administrator costs on these fees. Here is an opportunity. An opportunity for us here is that if we were to continue the partnership with SuperSport and we sign that partnership, we are then going to but to rebate the difference. So whatever the costs that will be covered by SuperSport in the operations, we will rebate it back to the members. And that will give us what we call a better case scenario. So instead of paying 1,200 for under 11, you'll now be paying 830. But if by the time we start the league, you pay 1,200 for under 11, and then we manage to secure that agreement with SuperSport, then it means we'll give you the difference as a rebate. And the same goes with all the other leagues and streams. But let's say SuperSport or any other partner that we get, they manage to cover the prize money component in them. Then there's further rebates in terms of what could be given back to the clubs. So these are not changes for the good for the sake of changes. They are changes to keep us afloat. Even if we're to get a sponsorship, the best case scenario fees will still continue, because we still must make sure that we are able to keep ourselves afloat. Should we lose that sponsorship, we know that we still have a foundation of keeping ourselves afloat. Sponsorships and grants and all those things, when they come, we obviously look at what is it that we can, pass on as a benefit directly to our members. I'm talking about even if we were to get a lot of funding, which we've applied for, which I'm very hopeful that we'll get. When we get that, we'll also look at what is the benefit that we'll be able to pass on to our members. This is a football association, and we need to make sure that it's kept afloat. Now, the concern is, as clubs, are we going to be able to afford this? And I'm saying we've been operating on an incorrect funding structure at a club level for a long time. In fact, some of us since the inception of our own clubs. We keep on saying that we are removing kids from the streets. That may be, but that's not what we are doing. What we are doing is we are developing these kids. We are putting skills in them. We are ensuring fitness in them. All of these things are things that people pay for. It's a service. It's a community service. There is no parent in their right minds who is going to see the value that we are putting in onto the lives of their children and refuse to contribute to it. We just need to make sure that the value and the engagements and all those are consistently producing a relationship that is healthy between the player and the club and the parent, and the parent and the player. So, and as we determine these fees, we need to go with Goldilocks principle. Make sure that the price that the parents pay is just right. We don't get too exorbitant because the club in Centurion is also exorbitant. We look at our own operations as a club, and then we say, if we get this much, that would be great. I'll make an example. If an under 11 player pays 150 rands for the whole year, not 150 rands per month, but 150 rands per annum, if we make sure they pay that, 10 players would contribute 1,500 rands. Now, if you are at the entry level of under 11, you've already covered the registration fee. If it's 20 players, it will be 3,000 rands. So if you are at the upper level of the under 11, you've already covered the registration fee. So what it really says is that funding of the club is not necessarily coming out of the pocket, or should not necessarily come out of the pocket of the owner or the founder. It should come out from those to whom the community service is being rendered. But you must be willing to do the work, to show the value to them consistently. You must be willing to make sure that throughout your operations and administration, this value is visible and auditable. And we can discuss what is value. We can discuss how to show that value, right? I'll make an example. If you give a parent feedback about their child, and you say, this child, for the kind of age group that he or she is in, they are checking on 1, 2, and 3. They still need, more practice for them to get 4 and 5 right. So we encourage you to, allow the child to practice at home, so many minutes, so many hours, and so forth and so on. And you may need to also buy maybe a soccer ball to be able to do X, Y, and Z, or buy this and that and that. And this will help the child to progress. And keep on giving same updates, with that show that there is progression. There's value in it. A parent sees that my child is developing. But if we don't communicate any such things to parents, then they don't see the value and they think that there's no community service of any nature. In fact, they start to believe that we are using their children for our own ends. So we need to restructure how we fund the club, but how we relate to or engage our stakeholders at club level. So if we then have our meetings on an ongoing basis, whether it is quarterly, whether it is annually, but if we keep on having these meetings, then we are able to drum the message home in terms of what are the requirements for a player to be in a club. Then we are able to charge these fees. And also make sure that nothing that is not communicated by a club gets to be communicated to the parent of the player. And this is why we say the relationship between the club and the player and the parent, and the parent and the player, the club, is important, because we are able to check from time to time what is it that is communicated to parents and what is it that is not. If we get this right, now, not next year, not 2 months from now, if we get it right now, then we will have no qualms about the registration fees that have increased. It will be one of the things that we are able to take home and say, we've done it. So, members, that is program gear 2, 3 elements. league structure changes, prize structure changes, and club funding changes. If we do this, then our program Gear 2 will be in full gear by 2022. We will be looking forward to 2023 to extend Gear 2 for Under 17 and Super League. Is this an abnormal change? The answer is no. It's not abnormal. It is just radical. That's it, but not abnormal. Are we changing the vision? No. Actually, we are accelerating the drive to realize the vision. We are accelerating the drive to realize the vision. Are we breaking the custom? No. We are actually enriching the custom, particularly with regards to the club funding model. We've been talking about club funding for years. We are now stopping to be talk shops and starting to implement. That's all we are doing. This association, ladies and gentlemen, is in good hands. The thinking behind the programs is well thought of and has been thought of for a number of years. There's nothing new. The difference here is that we have stopped talking and we are implementing. And we have stopped being talk shops and we are now implementers. Talking about the electoral process, ASREC has been appointed by PLFA to be the electoral body. So we need to send our forms to them. Our forms have changed a bit. It's one form per delegate per club. So if you're nominating 10 people, you would have 10 forms. So please make sure that you get that right. You don't use the previous form, use the new ones. And each form must be signed by the chairperson and the secretary of the club. The email address, if you are sending this, is asrec2021@gmail.com. ASREC is ASSREC2021@gmail.com. If you're delivering this, hand deliver. The address is Lucas Moripe Stadium. ASREC's office is at Lucas Moripe Stadium. But it is expected that the City of Tshwane will also assist if ASREC is not in the office. Please make sure that you understand that these things must be delivered before the due date and time. The due date is the 4th of February, which is Friday at 3 o'clock. Anything after that is rejected. So just please make sure that you adhere to that, to those timelines, and not expect that there will be leniency. In terms of the slates, we have decided not to go with slates. The message from Strides is nomination and election support for chairperson. However, Strides has its own thoughts about who needs to occupy what position. That will be something that we engage with one another on a one-on-one basis. Moving on to the constitutional supremacy. The Constitution is supreme, and it cannot be overridden by members, not even by overwhelming numbers. Members may amend the Constitution, but there is a process to amend the Constitution. And even that process cannot be flawed or faltered. Once a correct process has been followed to amend the Constitution, and that amendment has been properly adopted, that amendment becomes immediately effective, meaning that we can start to use that amendment from the time of adoption. So we must not be, we must not listen to people who say, we are the Congress, we are the highest decision-making body, therefore we will override the Constitution. It does not happen like that. Anything that is in the Constitution must be adhered to. And the reason why that is the case is because the Constitution is to protect the organization. Now, we need to urge you as members of PLFA to play a role in protecting the Constitution so that it can continue to protect the organization. Would like to thank you once more for taking time listening to this address. And we hope and trust that our call will be heeded. We will engage with you one-on-one with relation to other matters and other positions. But we do this fully aware that you have your own capacity to analyze the risks, to assess them, to decide whether you want to mitigate them or not. And if you decide to mitigate them, to decide on the mitigation itself. We must go on record to say that this recording is only merely a recommendation to you. You take it, use it. It is really up to you, but we depend on your support. I thank you.